welcome to Grace and Lottie's Elizabeth here. One of the videos I thought I would start trying to do a little more regularly are just showing you guys some of the projects that I have worked on off camera so that you guys can know other things that I've done and I can share some of the things I learned while doing those projects with you. One of the things that I have loved doing, and I'm going to show you a bunch of these here because this will show you just how much I've enjoyed kind of doing this style. I've got all of those right there. Is just doing these like little doodle pieces, and I've been doing them on watercolor paper. And you can see I just did this on some simple watercolor paper, nothing fancy, nothing crazy expensive here. This guy I did start off with using my Koi watercolor set. It's a nice little travel set here. I've got extra right there so you can see it's just a simple, and I use my water brush with it. I have two water brushes, one's thin, one's thick. I'll use the thicker one to get in and just kind of let it flood. And then after I draw in the circles, because I do the black after I watercolor the areas, then I can go in with my white Prismacolor. You can see how tiny my little white Prismacolor has gotten, and I will mark in some of the little spots here just to kind of lighten them up a little and give it a little more interest. So that's one of the things I've done. And you saw this one I did a little bit differently. I used also those I did a thing where I showed the 100 Crayola. I used those a little bit in it as well as I went through with some pencil and kind of sketched on top to see how that worked. Another cool little technique there. I also planned ahead and kind of thought about where my colors would be, and so I did the center yellow darker and let it kind of fade out there as well. My birthday passed since I was doing some videos, so with my birthday money I got some watercolor paper, and so I got hot press and cold press because I wanted to try them out. So that's why I've got all four. I did 4 sets or 4 of the same thing. I have the watercolors here, hot and cold, and then I used my pen brush markers that I really like on this one, so I was able to do something a little bit different with it. So you see 2 different effects, 2 different papers, and got to use that a little bit. I did not go back in with any white pencil on this. This is just using watercolor, and that was it. So would come back in and you can see how they gave different effects on this. I'm finding that I like hot pressed a little bit better than cold pressed. That's just me. I've never used them side by side to know which one I liked better, so this was a fun little experiment. Plus, just bought the little size so that I wasn't spending a ton of money on paper, was just buying the little postcard size so I would be able to test it out and figure out what I like. Another thing that I worked on since I was filming some videos, I've also been working a little bit on trying to do a little bit of realism with my colored pencils. So I sketched this peony right here that I saw in our trip last year out to Colorado. I took it, and then my paper got wet, so that's why I skipped so many. And then I also did this really pretty hibiscus that I saw at Churchill Downs in Louisville. So playing around with those, trying to hone my technique a little bit more as drawing what I see. I don't do a whole lot of realism, so it's fun to jump in and really try to make it look photorealistic. I don't know if I'm ever going to get great at it, but I enjoy the process, so that's where that is. Then the last thing I'm going to show you guys I've been working on, this is a giant sheet of paper. I'm realizing that it's not showing up completely on the camera. Let me zoom out just a hair. There you go. And this is one of those watercolor artist grade coloring sets that you can get. It's the Turkish one. This thing is by Pepin, P-E-P-I-N. Puts these out. And so I've been playing around with this, and I will use my Mondeluz pencils as well as my Polycolors from Kohinoor in conjunction to just keep layering and really getting this all defined in here and having fun. This takes forever on these. I'm just going to let you know that I've honestly probably got 3 full days of work in this already. You can see how far I've gotten. But having some fun with just the simple blue and green color palette in this and keeping it tied to that with that little bit of yellow and gold to kind of pop against it. So I will show you guys another picture of this when it is finished. So that's what I'm currently working on. I would love to know what you are currently working on. So if you want to share that down below in the comments, or you can tweet or tag me an Instagram post of what you're working on, because I'd love to see it. I'm at Grace and Lottie's. You can find me easily there. Also now have the blog up and running again over at graceandlotties.com. So easy to find. I've got some free coloring pages up over there if you want to look and find those so that you can color along with some of mine. And if you do one of them, please share it as well so that we can see it. I would love to know what your take on some of my sheets look like. Remember that art happens in everyday life. Make sure you're watching for it.